mugwumps. They're everywhere. They're speaking out at board meetings, city hall, town square, courthouse, state house, even the White House. They must be stopped. They are disruptors.
They're disruptors.
Welcome everyone to Mugwump Media. Welcome to Disruptor Central. Now, my name's Juanita Bright, and over here on my right, as always, is my husband, Kevin. Kevin, he's put up with a lot over the last few weeks. Are you happy that the spring legislative session at Jefferson City is over?
Well, I'm not really sure it's over. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that a lot of this stuff's going to haunt us for a while.
Ghostly returns?
Yeah.
Kind of like Nancy
Apparitions.
Pelosi. I know, like Nancy Pelosi when she said, you got to pass the bill to see what's in it. Kind of like bad pizza, you know? You keep burping up the stuff long after the meal. So we'll see what happens. We did get some wins, and I tell you, there's some things, some observations. Kevin and I are going to share some observations with you tonight. We're not going to, I know people's eyes roll back in their head if you get to talking too much about the politics at Jefferson City. But you know, Kevin, somebody told me the other day, because I asked him, I said, now, you know, what do you know about Jefferson City? And then he goes, well, not as much as I should. And I get that all the time from people. They say, you know, I know we should know more, but I guess we're just blissfully unaware. I've heard people say that a lot. And the bad thing is we really can't afford to be blissfully unaware anymore. Here in the state of,
Thinking more like we've been getting blistered lately.
I know. It's a good thing to keep up with some of it anyway, so that you know what's been voted for, you know who voted for it, so you can kick their rears out, and just to know how to vote in general. So it's a good thing to at least keep up with that. So I actually made some cliff notes for you guys today. There was a lot of bills signed just in the last few weeks, so obviously we're not going to cover it all, but we're going to hit some of the, some of the things that passed that were important, some that didn't pass, and kind of the attitude of what was going on up there. I'm telling you, folks, I think that they know that we're watching them, Kevin. I think it's good. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But first, I wanted to tell you, let's see, for those of you who just joined us as subscribers, we actually put out our first YouTube short the other day. Got some attention. It was surprising. So because of that, our subscriber list did jump a little bit. If you want to know what a mugwump is, I'm not going to go into it here other than to say it has a lot to do with history. Kevin and I are absolute history geeks. So because of that, we enjoy history and the cycles. Man, what is it the Bible says? What was before will be again.
History repeats itself.
History repeats itself, that's for sure. Go to our YouTube page and go to episode number 1, What is a Mugwump? And it's going to tell you a little bit about the 1884 grassroots movement that really shook the political landscape, got rid of a bunch of corruption because that was what was going on. And that's what's going on now. Doge! Man, it really is repeating itself.
Same old thing.
That's right. 1884, a bunch of people defected from the Republican Party because they had become corrupt. And the mugwumps were those folks that defected, led by, Mark Twain. So
Missouri boy.
Go to that video. You'll enjoy it, and it's going to give you some background that's going to tell you kind of where the mugwumps name came from. Also, we have a new website, folks. Now, I don't know that it's going to be up. This video will be on live Sunday evening, so I don't know that it will be up at that point. We're hoping. It's a cool little website. We had a little bit of help with it. Also, we have an online store. Kevin, T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and hopefully more stuff. And
you seem excited about it.
I know. It is it's exciting. I'm actually going to get some of those. I'm going to order some of those myself. I'm very excited about it. We've got one design right now, and there's going to be another design here before too long. I think you'll enjoy them. So mugs, T-shirts, and hoodies for now. Anyway, yeah, and get a T-shirt. Announce to the world that you too are a mugwump. Right?
Good company.
Good company for sure. Now, today I have some Cliff Notes, a short synopsis of some of the takeaways from that legislative session from this spring that I was telling you about. But before we go there, I have a couple of things that I wanted to share from the news this week. Trump, oh my gosh, he cracks me up, I tell you. We were just watching tonight. He had the gentleman from Africa. I guess he was the president of South Africa that he was talking to at the White House. And he's denying all the crazy atrocities of the farmers. And lo and behold, Trump says, really? And he says, well, watch this. And he turns on the video, dim the lights.
I like the way he questions.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's hiding things and pretending is never a good thing.
No.
So anyway, couple of things that I saw this week. Did anybody see Trump's poll numbers? Now, if you were watching our video, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were talking Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen was just blowing up. He was going to everybody's YouTube page, site that would listen to him and doing videos and talking about how terrible the reporting in the polls were. The worst poll numbers in 80 years. And of course, this was right at the time that it was Trump's first 100 days. Well, something was put out. I actually saw this on Charlie Kirk's social media. He said that since the Middle East meetings, Trump has literally shot up 9 points, Kevin. 9 points. From April 30th to May 1st, his approval was 44%. From May 17th to May 19th, his approval surged to 55%. They tried to convince everybody that he was just in a ditch, but I don't believe them.
Yeah, fake news, fake polls, liars. Fake pins, maybe fake people.
The auto pin.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin brings up the auto pin. I have another neat I don't know if you guys saw Trump's post on Truth Social a few days ago, but it was about the auto pin. Kevin, I talked about this the other day. Remember, we talked about the auto pin.
You talk about a lot of things.
I know. Mm-hmm. And our daughter basically said, do you really think they're ever going to do anything about it? I'm telling you, it may. There is a watchdog group that has been checking this out. And what they're really concerned about, he wasn't very well all the way through his presidency, but especially the last few days. How many pardons did he write?
I don't know. Seemed like he had a lot of pen pals,
it's like 100. I don't know how many there were. Pen pals.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny, Kevin. But there was a lot of doubt as to whether that was actually real. And the reason was, whenever you observe, because the auto pen does the same signature. No shakes, no squiggles, nothing. It does the same signature every time because it's a mechanical pen, right? Well, Biden's in his 80s. Really, if he signs, he's probably going to be, it's not going to be perfect. So apparently this watchdog group got to checking out the later ones, the later signatures of the auto pen, they believe, on the pardons, the last of the pardons, and they don't think it's real. Trump doesn't think that a lot of it's real. So here's what he said on Truth Social. Whoever had control of the auto pen is looking to be a bigger and bigger scandal by the moment. It is a major part of the real crime, and this cracks me up. He has these whole swaths of his Truth Social post that are all in caps, very dramatic. It's a major part of the real crime that the presidential election of 2020 was rigged and stolen. Millions of people knew that, but the radical left Democrats waged a campaign of inoculation and innocence like none that had ever been waged before. This is why the unselect committee of political thugs who were given a full and complete pardon by the person who wielded the now illegally used auto pen.
Or persons.
Or persons.
Pen pals.
Yeah, could have been multiple people hanging out with him. Deleted and destroyed all evidence and information from their corrupt and vicious witch hunt against me. Did you know that, Kevin? They think that a lot of that evidence from the J6 committee is now gone. They think it was destroyed. Of course.
A lot of stuff's disappeared.
That's right. Oh, isn't that the truth? Kind of like Hillary's emails at that time with her bleach bit and all. And many other people whose lives were completely shattered and destroyed by this historically criminal event. Remember, it all began with dirty cop James Comey, Mr. 86 Shell guy, right? 8647. Obama, a hapless and cognitively impaired Sleepy Joe Biden, and my now very famous accusation that they spied on my campaign, in all caps, of course, this is Trump. Whoever had control of the auto pen is just the beginning. The biggest crime of all is the 2020 presidential election was rigged. I, MAGA, won the election by millions of votes, and everyone knows it. God bless America.
Yeah.
For the fight has just begun. So that was Trump's post on Truth Social. So he's banging that drum, and he's banging it hard because, of course, that was what he talked about in Michigan whenever he did his speech for the 100 days.
He's good at banging a drum.
Isn't he? He sure is. Now, today I wanted to give you a short synopsis of what did happen in Jefferson City over this spring session. Now, we're not going to go on and on. Again, I don't want everybody's eyes to roll back in their head and them to turn off of our YouTube channel. Again, it's good to know what's going on. I'll try to give some cliff notes, give some brief information, and then we'll try to move on. I've got some other good information, good news at the end of our broadcast. Now, some of this information is from an article in the Missouri Independent. Whenever you look for state news, there is a lot of information that comes up in the Missouri Independent. I'm not sure they're completely independent. I think they're a little liberal, Kevin. And so what I usually end up having to do is kind of sort through some of their liberal stuff. But I mean, they do give pretty good information. Some came from an online information pack called Liberty Link Pack, and I really like them. They are grassroots patriots. So we're going to give you some news from there too. Now, big picture, the legislature sent 67 bills to the governor's desk, and this was from January on, Kevin. They passed a $53 billion, and this was billion plus, $53+ billion state budget. Apparently the largest budget in the state's history. Isn't that crazy?
Keeps going up.
I know. And apparently some of the spending was actually blocked by, I think it was Rick Bratton that actually blocked some of it. Who knows how big it would have been. They put a proposed constitutional amendment on the ballot. I heard that there might be two. I'm not sure. Like I said, I haven't delved into everything. I don't know that anybody has. There's so much. But we know for sure there's one, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. Governor Kehoe also pushed a late stadium funding plan, Kevin, in which the public would provide, get this, 50% of the funding for building and or renovation of the Royals Stadium and the Chiefs Stadium.
I got to ask why.
Well, I thought the Chiefs were leaving. See, Well, I have an idea, and I actually talk about it here in just a minute, of why he did this. And he is a business guy. I mean, he said he was a business. I listened to a 25-minute speech today that he gave after the session was over, and he talks about how he wants the state to be business friendly and that he wants to do things that are going to encourage business. So I think that's what he thinks he's doing here.
I would like to see some friendliness myself.
Well, I know, Kevin. I mean, if you're going to give $1.5 billion over 30 years, $1.5 billion over 30 years. Kevin, we'll be dead by the time this is paid for if he gets it through. I'm telling you.
We're not going to get it paid for.
No.
And if it's such a good investment, why are we having to put state funds into it? I didn't know we were in the business of doing business. Not
only that, Kevin, not only that. What irritated me is the way that it came about, okay? And this kind of seems like the way he does things. You know, I'm not sure exactly what I think of him, but this is sort of makes it evident, some of the stuff, some of the ways he goes about things. Now, the irritating thing about this is that this plan was never heard in any committee. It was never vetted by legislators. The public didn't hear anything about it. The public was not. The reason that you put this stuff up there and file it first and let people know is so that they can call their legislators and say, hey, what Kevin said, I don't want to be paying on this until I die. The public needs to know what's going on first. That's why it takes a long time to get this stuff through. There was never any of this. This was an amendment that was attached to an existing bill one of those omnibus bills, these bills that were like this and they become like this. It was attached to a bill brought to the floor in the final 3 days of the legislative session, Kevin. And apparently he just kind of waltzed in and said, hey, to the House and said, I want y'all to get on board with this.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. I thought so too.
Now, I would have hoped that he'd walked in and said, so, what do your people think of this? Kind of went around the room and asked what the people were saying. It would have been good.
2 or 3 weeks ahead of time and said, hey, put this up, let's get this up, let's make sure people know about it, and let's see what they want to do. It's their money, right?
I guess he's going to explain to us why this is such a wonderful idea. Well,
it didn't pass. It got killed in the Senate, so that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But here's the thing. I listened to his 25-minute speech today. It sounds like he's going to be bringing it back up. He's making them come back for another session to try to get it over the finish line.
Okay.
But at least people kind of know about it now, so they can call their representatives and say, I don't want to be paying all this money until I die, and I don't want my kids to end up having to pay for it. Especially since I don't even know that the Royals and who knows, I heard they're leaving, going to Kansas, right? So I don't know. Anyway, but he thinks that there is some fiscal reward to this. And here's the thing, there was no fiscal note on it either, to let you know what the cost was ultimately.
No budget plan.
Right?
We've seen that a few times lately.
You can't just waltz in and expect, because you're in a certain office, expect people to bend over backwards and do for you.
Good to explain.
Anyway, he is going to make the lawmakers come into Jefferson City. He didn't say when. He said maybe next month to try to get it through. Also, in January, he laid out some goals for the legislature to pass, and some of them were good, Kevin. I think
I'm not excited.
I think he likes business, and I think he's trying to help business in Missouri. He got a capital gains tax cut, which is good. When we earn our money, when you've got an investment, your home, the things that you have, what you're worth.
We can say that.
It's good to be able to keep that and to pass it on to your kids, and not, that's a good thing. Capital gains is good. State control of St. Louis police. And Kevin and I were talking about that earlier. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know if it's, I know there's a lot.
State funding the St. Louis police? Is that, I don't know.
Well, probably, but I'm wondering if it has to do with crime numbers going up. I know I heard, and I don't know for sure that this is true, but I had actually read somewhere, Kansas City, there's a lot of crime in Kansas City now, so much that the FBI is thinking about putting another extension office there. Is what I had heard. The cities are getting to be crazy places, so that may be why. And, that was where Ferguson was. It may be that they feel that they need to have more state presence there. I don't know.
Maybe they just need a new sheriff.
Maybe. I didn't vote for him. Okay. I didn't vote for him. Let's see. He also got a $50 million private school voucher program. What do you think of that, Kevin?
Well, depends on how it's doled out and who things like that. It sounds good, but who benefits? Does everybody?
Ultimately, who benefits? No, that's
basically
true.
our students and parents.
Is it just going to be people in private schools?
That would be. That would kind of leave.
A lot of people can't afford private schools.
That's right.
So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Lawmakers also noted and commented on the fact that he was. This was in this article. Okay. Lawmakers also noted and commented on the fact that he was a governor who left his office to be involved in the legislative process. And in his speech, he said, well, I've been walking the halls. I've been talking to people. He also gave, like I said, the speech the other evening in which he talked about the results of the legislative session. In his speech, he talked about making the security and the safety of Missourians a priority. And again, that may be why they kind of co-opted the St. Louis Police Department, possibly. I don't know. As well as making Missouri a welcoming state for business investments.
I need to hear a lot more before I know what I think.
Right. When he was asked about the overturn of the paid sick leave portion of part of Proposition A, Governor Kehoe responded by saying, and I thought that this was actually a pretty good response, it shows that he understands the shortfalls of the initiative petition process by what he said. He understands it. And just so you know, folks, they did not get IP reform done. And we were told, how many times were we told, John Patterson, who was elected as
this was the
House
supermajority priority.
I know that this was that IP reform and amending
Amendment 3.
Amendment 3 were the two priorities, and they did not get IP reform. And unless IP reform is done, maybe they'll take it up again in November. I don't know. Meanwhile, what are they going to come up with for the next ballot in November? What are they going to come up with? That's the scary thing to try to take away from all of us.
Supermajority priority.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway.
I'm thinking I need to read the dictionary and look these terms up because maybe I just misunderstood what these words mean.
I don't think so, Kevin. I think you understand more than a lot of them do. Okay, so this is what he said. We shouldn't allow, in this case, a very liberal group from the East Coast to come in and spend millions of dollars to put a question on the ballot that has nothing to do with the input of individually private-owned businesses. I'm not a big fan of mandates. I think the market should set what employees get paid and what the compensations are. Missouri businesses and citizens should decide, not people who aren't even from the state. And what he said is very true. There was a lot of money that was coming in, and basically they put these slick commercials up and, weeping, crying women saying that they got no health care when they went to the hospital. That's how Amendment 3 got passed. And there were Christians, there were people, conservatives, who voted for that stuff because they were lied to. He also said, I believe that the free market economy in Missouri, he said, I think for the most part, our businesses do a good job of caring for their employees. And I do too, for the most part, especially small businesses, because if you don't take care of your employees as much as you can, they're going to go somewhere else. Because the bottom line is we can't afford to pay as much as a lot of the big businesses can. So, but I thought this was good. He obviously understands the problem with IP. And we'll see what happens with that later this year. It's got to be fixed. Absolutely has to
Priority of the supermajority.
Right. Yeah, we were kind of told a fib on that one. Now, here's the other side. The session did not exactly end the way that the Democrats would have liked, and that's a good thing. Their efforts to protect two initiatives that had passed on November's ballot, and we already talked about these a little, an abortion rights constitutional amendment, Amendment 3, and a paid sick leave law, Proposition A, went up in flames when the Senate Republicans invoked PQ. What does PQ stand for? I'm
liking the sounds of it.
Right. Previous question. And basically what that is, and of course, some of the Democrats were saying, they invoke the nuclear option. Well, in actuality, it's something old that they've had around for years. It's a tool to make whoever is filibustering literally for days trying to run out the clock and not get something done. It basically says, PQ, we're going back to the previous question. Let's take a vote. And here's the thing. It's not invoked all the time. It has not been invoked. I think it was 18 times since 1970. 18 times. So it's not something they use all the time. They try to allow the minority party to have their time to speak and filibuster. And it was used twice last week, and it was used on the two corrections to the initiative petitions they were trying to pass, Amendment 3 and Proposition A, because they knew. I think public pressure. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I think that this is more of a win than we know, Kevin.
I think
pressure.
I think they're starting to listen a little.
Oh, yes. Oh, I do too. Because they stood up, they got a backbone, and they went ahead and pulled the trigger. And somebody asked him about it. They said, well, what do you think about the bad will that is going to be invoked by using this PQ? And he said, well, it's a tool in the tool chest of the majority party. If you want to shut somebody down that just won't sit down, that will not stop talking and try to filibuster until the end of the session. And he said the very same thing, I could say, the opposite side of the same coin. The filibuster is their tool, the minority's tool. And I thought that was a really good answer, too. He's a smart guy. He's been in the Senate, and I think he's probably been in the House, too. I don't know his history, but he's been around a while. Anyway, let's see. Like I said, I think it's a positive sign. They actually stood up. and they used the tools that they had available. Now, despite the increased GOP wins in the Senate, Democrats were successful, and this burns me. It really does, Kevin. Those stupid big bills with all these little ornaments attached to them, the omnibus bills, they're not constitutional.
No.
They're really not.
No.
Democrats were successful at ensuring that no high-profile bill cleared the Senate this year without at least a few Democratic priorities tacked on. And folks, this is what I was talking about last week when I talked about these big old omnibus bills, big old things. And the last 2 weeks was bad. Like I said last week, I saw a picture. One of the ladies from Shield Maidens was in there observing and watching and writing and reporting on it all. And all you saw in the hall by the Senate doors were all these tables with these huge stacks of these bills. So crazy that they weren't reading them. They couldn't. It was just too much.
And it has to change.
It has to change. There's supposed to be one subject. These bills are. It's not constitutional.
Rat poison analogy works pretty good too. You know what? They start throwing things on there, and
That's
they
right.
throw a little rat poison there, and
That's right.
It's just a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything.
That is absolutely correct, Kevin. You are so right. That's right. Anyway, one of the things that this article from the Missouri Independent stated was that the Democrats' small ball approach to making bills that they hate a little less terrible, in their opinion.
A little less terrible.
Right, by tacking on this stuff on those omnibus bills, scored them some unexpected wins this year.
The minority.
Yeah, for sure. So the rat poison, that's right, in the cake. So we will be a little way down the road before we figure out exactly what we've got in this season. Like Kevin said, you got to pass the bill to see what's in it. We are going to be talking to at least a couple of the people from the 10, and I'm looking forward to hearing what they have to say about it, I think. Gosh. The Roundup, Bayer, we had talked about this before. They were trying to gain protection from lawsuits. And I mean, Bayer bought out Monsanto and Roundup, and there are cancer.
Carcinogen.
Oh my gosh, there are cancer lawsuits out the wazoo. And basically, they were trying to get protection from prosecution, the SHIELD law, and that failed.
Rat
And
poison
I'm glad
there got
about
kept
that.
out. That's
right.
good.
And I know the farmers need help in their farming, but glyphosate is not it. I really don't think. For the first time in nearly 50 years, Missouri's major electric utilities, this is going to make you mad, major electric utilities will be able to include the cost of new power plants in the rates that customers pay for service. Kevin? The article said that the law was written specifically to encourage the construction of new natural gas-based generation. They're trying to wean people off of the electric as much, and they want gas-based natural gas. They want to bring in natural gas plants, and they're also wanting to, and the new law could also be used to help finance a new nuclear power plant, is what they're saying. They're wanting to encourage...
I'm not sure what I think about all
right.
that.
They're wanting to encourage different forms of power.
Good to be diverse.
Well, I don't really like paying for their plants. And get this, the law that this one replaces was approved by voters in 1976. That law banned these rates that include construction work in progress.
Yeah.
Now...
Not long ago, they were blowing up the smokestacks and tearing down coal plants.
In Springfield,
and
I know.
We've lost them.
I know, for
They're
sure.
gone.
For sure. Scares me every winter, wondering if we're going to have
We
enough
need a backup
electricity.
plan. So
I know, we need a backup plan.
we need more details.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens with all this. Now, the good news from Liberty Link Pack. Now, this first one I'm going to tell you, and I'm not going to talk extensively about it. I'm just going to kind of go over, and this is the exact wording. It's not very long. And again, I love Liberty Link Pack because they are patriots. This is not a liberal organization. HJR 73 was passed. HJR 73 is the fix to Amendment 3. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there are two camps in this. There are people who are beautiful conservatives who did not vote for this. And there were a lot of people very angry at them for not voting for it. Now, we have this horrendous bill, Amendment 3, that basically leaves the door wide open for all kinds of awful things, abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, no parental notification on abortions, the transgender surgeries and chemical stuff, wide open. It's horrendous. Amendment 3 is horrendous simply because it was so vague, and all these things are left wide open. So whenever they passed HJR 73, they left in some exceptions. Now, overall, and I got a copy of it today, but I don't think it was the exact bill. I don't think that it was the one that was passed in the Senate and actually is going to be put on the ballot here before too long. There are exceptions, and I think the exceptions are medical reasons, which I understand. If somebody is bleeding out, you can bleed out in 3 minutes if the placenta detaches. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff that happens. So medical exemptions, also for fetal abnormalities, and also for rape and incest. Now, the rape and the incest and some of the fetal abnormalities, like I said, some of the most beautiful conservative people that I know couldn't vote for it because here was what they said: it's going to be creating a subhuman group of people whose lives are not worthy to be saved. And I get that. Just because, and I'm with them, I agree. I absolutely agree with that. And this is a struggle for me too, and Kevin, because Kevin and I, we're very conservative, like I've told you all. But on the other side, if we don't vote for this, we're going to be left. I fear that the Christian vote will get split, and we'll end up continuing with Amendment 3, which is horrendous. So this is going to be something we're all going to have to pray about. Whenever I get the final wording of what's going to go on the ballot and what it really is, you better believe I will bring it on and we'll go through it and we'll read it because we need to pray about this. Pastors need to talk about this. They need to be informed. We need to have a serious conversation with God. Whenever Trump ran in 2016, I didn't want to vote for him. And I can remember listening to Franklin Graham, and he said, nope. He said, you don't have an excuse, Christian. You have to vote, and you have to pray to God as to what you believe is the right way to vote for your people and for the glory of God. So this is something that people are going to have to decide for themselves. And like I said,
here we are now.
It's heart-wrenching. This is a very tough place to be in, but this is where we're at. From
this point, we've got to make a decision again.
Yeah.
And we need to be sure that it is scriptural first and constitutional next.
Yes. What Liberty Link PAC, they believe that this should be, that it should be passed. They think that this is the option. So they said now it will be placed on the ballot for a vote of the people, 2026 possibly, maybe before, we don't know. We have a lot of work to do in educating Missourians about this ballot measure, and that's the truth. We need much prayer, many volunteers, and unity among pro-life Missourians, and that's true. And organizations as we initiate this campaign to support this ballot measure that will protect women and the sanctity of life. And it does, it actually forces inspection. And that was one of the things about Amendment 3 is there was no safeguards for women. So this actually puts it back in. So protection of women too. HCS, HBs, 567, 546, 758, 958, the fix to Proposition A was also passed. And of course, that was the $15 an hour, paid sick time, that stuff. This is good news to Missouri businesses who were threatened with closure due to not being able to afford the ever-increasing minimum wage tied to the Consumer Price Index and the mandated sick leave. And employees should be promoted and given a pay raise based on merit, not legislation. SB 152 passed. SB 152 prohibits foreign contributions in statewide ballot measures. This is good because this is going to be helpful. And I mean, George Soros, people outside the country were contributing money to these initiative petitions. They were paying these people $25, $35 an hour from out of state to come in with their little clipboards and get signatures when they lied to them. So this was all money, tons of money coming in. And I'll tell you, Kevin, something else that might be helping is Doge. Because whenever they are exposing all these shell funds, all these what is it, U.S. aid, that money was being laundered, I believe, to these people that are paying these. I mean, they were having job fairs for these people to come in and get signatures. And I believe that's where a lot of that money's coming from. So hopefully the Doge thing is going to help with that.
I'm a real Doge fan.
I think I am too, for sure. Anyway, this will prevent special interests from outside of our country from changing the Missouri Constitution, and that's the truth. Sadly, HB 195, the Born Alone Survivors Act, didn't make it across the finish line. This is startling. We have a supermajority of Republicans. Folks, what the Born Alive Survivors Act is, if a child is born alive during an abortion, the Born Alive Survivors Act basically compels people to take care of the child, the infant, as in the best way that you can, and not just set it aside and let it struggle and die. And it did not pass with a supermajority.
It's concerning.
Of legislators. SJR 40, the constitutional sheriff proposed amendment was not brought up for a vote in the House, and we need sheriffs who will protect. The sheriff is the final protection line for cities and counties, for sure. But I'll tell you what, folks, change is happening. It is. And like I told Kevin, I think what happened in the Senate was no accident. This is the first time that's been used since 2020. And I mean, things have just died in the Senate. I've heard how dead the Senate is a place that bills go to die. And I really believe that by getting these two things through, I think there was public pressure, and I think that there are people there now. The 10 are making a big difference in the House. David Wassinger, you heard me talk a couple of weeks ago about David Wassinger. He's the lieutenant governor. He's a neat guy. He's an America First person. He's a newcomer. He is the lieutenant governor officially. He's the president of the Senate. And he put something on social media. He said, the Senate's not working. He said, things are going to have to change. The rules are going to have to change. This is not working for the people. But he put this up on social media. I've got to read you something, and this is going to make you angry too, okay? But keep in mind, I think this is part of the change, folks. David Wassinger, the first-term GOP lieutenant governor, didn't mince words earlier this month when he decried how the Senate conducted itself while debating the state budget. It's time for a change, Wassinger declared while presiding over the chamber, and he vowed to take a more active role in proceedings while also working to change the rules of the chamber. Okay, this is what the president pro tem of the Senate, Cindy Laughlin, and I don't think I like her much anyway, because I think she's one of them I think she actually was one of them that pulled IP reform last year at the last minute. I could be wrong, but some of the things she said, no, was the response from Senate President pro tem Cindy O'Laughlin. She continued on. A lieutenant governor doesn't have any of that power. Wassinger was out of line giving a speech in the Senate chambers in the first place, O'Laughlin said, because that is a right reserved for senators. That's the people's house, Kevin. Can you say pompous, fake aristocrat?
Yeah.
That really makes me mad. That woman, and I think she's leaving. I think this is going to be her last term, I believe. Soon after the kerfuffle, Republican State Senator Jason Bean of Holcomb, remember that name too, folks, demanded Senate staff, both partisan and nonpartisan, be directed by leadership not to participate in any efforts by Wassinger to influence the rules or process. This is what liberals and treasonous moderates do, folks. This is how they act. We've seen it. Dealing with the library board and things like that. Whenever somebody new comes in who's trying to change things, who's trying to stand up, they immediately just run circles around him and try to confuse them, and that's what they did to him.
Little catchphrases. Right to read. Senators' rights. Oh, my goodness.
This infuriates me. This is what they do. I'm telling you. The next week, with Wassinger presiding, keep in mind, remember, he is the president of the Senate. He had a right to be there as much as he wants. Senators began making complicated procedural motions that appeared to befuddle the lieutenant governor. In the confusion, he incorrectly called for a vote on a bill too early. Of course he did. He's new. They were trying to trip him up on purpose. And when he tried to walk everything back, it left the Senate briefly paralyzed as staff worked to sort things out. This is a coup, folks, in the Senate. And they actually didn't get by with all of it. They were pressured enough that they went ahead and pulled the nuclear option, the PQ, and they at least did get a couple of things through. They got some wins for us. So, I've got his email address. If anybody wants to, couldn't find his phone number, but if anybody wants to email his office, thank him. Email him and thank him for coming in as a voice of reason. He was one of two, him and Denny Hoskins. And by the way, Kevin, they were two. I don't know that anybody else got their, this big rear budget that they passed, $53 billion. Guess who got their funding cut in their offices?
Well, I'm afraid you're going to tell us right now.
Denny Hoskin and David Wassinger. Now, I heard that they were going to try to put it back in another bill. I don't know if they did or not. Well, maybe. I'm going to have to ask and find out if that happened. There's just too much right now.
Suspicious.
But thank him for being part of the ballot. He was one of them that put on the counting of ballots, hand counting of ballots. Him and Denny Hoskins in Jefferson City. Thank him. He's trying to make a difference. He's an America First guy. And man, I don't want him to get discouraged and quit. People like him need to be encouraged. There's a lot he doesn't know, but if he hangs in there, this is only the beginning. But encourage him to hang in there. Now, his email address is LT, and this is all lowercase, LTGOV@ltgov.mo.gov. And just tell him, thank you. Be strong. We're behind you. It's the people's house. It's not those fake aristocrats' houses. They don't have any right to be sitting there bossing everybody around. Crazy, crazy. Anyway, I'm going to close with this too, Kevin. Something called True the Vote. Have you guys, I'm just going to wrap this up. You remember what Trump was talking about whenever he said that the 2020 election was stolen and there's going to be a reckoning coming? I think there is. I think that there are a lot of people in the Senate and the House nationally that should not be there. Isn't it amazing in all these swing states how a Republican will win and it'll be so close, and they spend a month counting ballots, and lo and behold, Kevin, the Democrat always wins.
Coincidence.
What a coincidence. And, it usually ends up because they find all these ballots. They find them in trunks. They find them in closets. They find them in machines. That happened in Missouri, by the way. So it's amazing how all this stuff happens. There is so much cheating, and I think that there are probably quite a few people in the House and in the Senate right now. This has been going on for at least 10 years, I think more. True the Vote, if you've not heard of them, True the Vote were the ones that worked with Dinesh D'Souza on the movie 2,000 Mules. And they were sued out the wazoo because they came up with all the ballot box fraud through geofencing. And geofencing, that's the pings from the telephones, right? So they could tell that all these people, the same people, were coming back over and over at these ballot boxes and dumping all of these ballots through the night from 12 o'clock to like 5 in the morning. And they are on the cutting edge of technology. And that's why whenever this showed up in my email, I follow them. It's a lady named Catherine Engelbrecht, I think is her name. Greg Phillips is one of her partners that works with her, and the two of them are amazing. They're light years ahead. They're figuring out things before things are even figured out. Like I said, the geofencing was something they come up with the 2,000 Mules. although it was already, that was how the FBI entrapped the January 6 people. Now, here was something that ended up in my box, and I think that this is going to be, my inbox, this is going to be very encouraging to you guys. It was to me. Hi, friends. Earlier this week, I shared an epiphany I had while sitting in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. She goes through a lot of trials. The response from everyone was overwhelming. Thank you. Many of you asked for more details, so I wanted to follow up and paint a clear picture of the future that I believe we're heading toward. We've been in the trenches, but now we're standing at the edge of something new, something transformative. We live in a world where you can unlock your phone with your face, move money in seconds, and track a package from warehouse to doorstep. And yet, our elections remain vulnerable, opaque, and slow. Antiquitous. That's not a technology problem, that's a leadership problem. It's time for the era of excuses to end, so let's start here. With voter singularity. What is voter singularity? It's the point where election systems become frictionless, transparent, and incorruptible. Where voter identity, residency, and citizenship can be verified instantly and securely. Where every lawful voter, no more, no less, can cast a ballot with total confidence. Where elections are no longer hidden behind bureaucratic curtains, but open, auditable, and accountable in real time. Another example of a future innovation is something we're calling smart paper. Smart paper doesn't exist yet, but it soon will. And it's not electronic voting. It's not centralized systems run by big tech. It's something much simpler and much more powerful. Smart paper will be a physical, hand-marked ballot, just like what we use now, but embedded with a secure digital fingerprint backed by blockchain. That fingerprint creates a one-to-one match between your paper ballot and a record stored on a distributed ledger. It can't be altered. It can't be faked. Once it's printed, it's tracked. Once it's cast, it's locked. When polls close, anyone, voters, observers, watchdogs, can verify that the process worked. That's not less control for the people, that's more. And thanks to advances in AI and encryption, it could be reality in a matter of months. Startup companies are already innovating this space. This is our moment. The technology's here. The solutions are coming. What's needed now is bold, citizen-led demand and the courage to build what the political class refuses to. We've never settled for the status quo, and we won't now. Our elections belong to the people, not the politicians. The future is ours. Over the coming weeks, we'll continue introducing new concepts and opportunities, and along the way, we'll host calls and build discussion forums so that the community's inspirations aren't siloed. Voter singularity is the future, undeniable, unstoppable, and thanks to you, we're already on the path. Keep the faith, never quit, Ephesians 6. Ever onward, Catherine. Change is happening. It's coming. Kevin, do you have anything to close this episode out?
No, I think I'm just going to leave it alone right now. A lot to think about.
Okay. There you go. Well, folks, thanks for joining us again, and hope you didn't get too bored listening to the stuff from Jefferson City. We'll talk about something else next week. It's important to know, though. We need to know. We have to live under this stuff, so we should know. If you know folks who are blissfully unaware, share this episode, subscribe, spread the word. Folks, change is right on the horizon, like a cloud the size of a man's hand. Can you see it? I can see it too. We'll be back again soon with more news, more information, hopefully more encouragement to keep you informed, inspired, and always independent. God bless.